There exists a science older than the stars we chart, a knowledge guarded behind sealed doors and oaths whispered in temples long turned to dust. It is the knowledge of the magnetic body, the field of living light that shapes every breath, every heartbeat, and every thought. Those who have walked the path of initiation, those called the 33rd, did not stumble upon this knowledge. They earned it through silence, discipline, and the purification of their own energy. What they discovered is as real as gravity, yet hidden from the eyes of a civilization hypnotized by its machines. The air that surrounds you is not empty. It is a dense ocean of magnetism so intricate that every planet, every star, and every living being sings through it. Egyptian priests measured these invisible currents thousands of years ago. They built temples on precise intersections of magnetic flows and used geometry not for decoration, but as tuning forks for the human soul. They understood that form creates frequency, and frequency governs life. Pythagoras spent 22 years in those temples. He was not studying mathematics as we know it, but the resonance between form and energy. When he spoke of perfect solids, the cube, the dodecahedron, the octahedron, he was describing instruments of healing. A perfectly constructed geometric form stabilizes the magnetic chaos within the human field. These shapes were the original medicine, and the human body was the temple in which they resonated. But knowledge this powerful was never meant for the careless. After the fall of the ancient schools, fragments survived among the Essenes, the Gnostics, and the Rosicrucians. The medieval alchemists disguised it beneath symbols of lead and gold. What they sought to transmute was not metal, but magnetism, the very field of the soul. The negrido, the albedo, and the rubedo were stages of energetic purification. When the field becomes perfectly coherent, the body begins to emit light. They called this the glorious body, the incorruptible vessel. In every era, a few rediscovered part of the secret. Franz Mesmer touched it when he realized that human beings, when gathered in harmony, could form a collective magnetic circuit. His patients stood in circles around magnetized water, and something extraordinary happened. Diseases vanished, emotional wounds dissolved, and forgotten memories resurfaced as if cleansed by invisible fire. But when the rulers of medicine saw it, they panicked. A world that heals itself is a world that cannot be controlled. You see, the same magnetic field that holds your atoms together responds instantly to your thoughts and emotions. Every lie you tell, every moment of cruelty or envy, tears microscopic holes in this luminous armor. When enough of these holes appear, disease enters, not as punishment but as magnetic consequence. Evil, in truth, is simply the distortion of energy that fails to find its rightful form. The ancients did not worship gods. They studied laws. They knew that morality was not a moral invention but a vibrational necessity. To think truthfully is to keep the field intact. To love is to generate coherence. To hate is to destroy the very fabric of your vitality. Those who mastered this art could heal without medicine, influence events at a distance, and remain ageless for decades. They did not defy nature, they obeyed its higher order. Every planet contributes its own frequency to this vast symphony of magnetism. Mercury quickens thought and movement. Venus softens and harmonizes. Mars ignites action. Jupiter expands, Saturn crystallizes, and the moon translates these celestial notes into the rhythms of the earth. You breathe them in with every inhalation. When the sun's magnetic tone shifts, spring awakens. When it contracts, winter comes. Every seed responds not to sunlight alone, but to magnetic instruction encoded in the air. Now imagine your body within this orchestra. Each organ vibrates with its own tone. The heart is the conductor, producing a field thousands of times stronger than the brain. When you act with integrity, that field becomes harmonic. When you fall into fear or deceit, it fractures. Modern instruments have already detected these changes, yet the mainstream cannot admit their implications. To accept the magnetic nature of life would require rewriting the entire architecture of medicine, economics, and politics. Even your surroundings are magnetic teachers. Sacred architecture, pyramids, cathedrals, monasteries, was built upon Earth's natural vortices. The faithful who entered those spaces felt peace not because of ritual, but because their fragmented fields were gently reassembled by geometry and resonance. Today, our concrete towers block the natural flow of magnetism. Synthetic materials trap static charges. Shoes isolate us from the earth, and screens pulse radiation that scrambles the delicate coherence of our minds. What has been called progress has, in truth, been a grand detuning. Humanity's field, once luminous and organized, now flickers under the assault of artificial frequencies. Yet even now, within the ruins, the law remains. A single person with a coherent field can harmonize hundreds around them. 10 such beings can calm a city. 1,000 can shift the course of nations. The ancients placed their temples not for isolation, but to maintain planetary equilibrium through resonance. Look deeper into your own body, and you will find the instruments of this science. Above your head spins the magnetic vortex that gathers solar energy, what the mystics call the crown. It spirals like a funnel, pulling refined frequencies downward through a luminous channel in front of the spine. Along this channel, 7 principal nodes distribute power to every organ. The throat governs truth and metabolism. The heart governs circulation and immunity. The solar plexus governs digestion and emotion. Each region corresponds not to belief, but to physics, magnetic transformers within a living circuit. When you lie, the throat field fractures, leading over time to disease in the glands. When you rage, the solar plexus erupts and loses coherence, draining vitality from the liver and stomach. When you live in fear, the root field collapses, severing your connection to Earth. Every emotion is magnetism in motion. Every thought is an electric current sculpting your destiny. Even the food you eat is a magnetic exchange. A fresh apple grown under natural light contains a coherent field that strengthens yours. Processed food, radiated and microwaved, carries a broken signal that weakens it. The initiates distinguished between living and dead food not through superstition, but through direct observation of energy. They knew that purity begins not in morality, but in magnetism. The earth itself breathes through its magnetic poles, drawing solar currents through one and exhaling through the other. Your body mirrors this pattern. When you meditate, your field aligns with the Schumann resonance of the planet, a heartbeat of 783 Hertz. In that moment, distortion dissolves, wounds begin to close, and higher intelligences can communicate through resonance rather than words. This is the secret of prayer, stripped of superstition. Alignment, coherence, synchronization with the divine field. But the hidden orders have never ceased to exist. Some still preserve this knowledge in silence. Their symbols, the square, the compass, the rose, the cross, are not emblems of control, but reminders of proportion and polarity. Yet others have corrupted it, using the science of magnetism not to liberate, but to dominate. The modern world is not built on ignorance but on inversion. Every system that feeds your fear, isolates you from nature, and distracts your mind serves one purpose: to fracture your field so that you remain energetically dependent. And yet, there is an escape, immediate, simple, unstoppable once begun. Rebuilding your field begins with truth, gratitude, and discipline. Every act of honesty heals the throat. Every moment of compassion strengthens the heart. Every breath taken consciously restores the rhythm between you and the planet. The universe responds instantly to integrity because magnetism obeys resonance, not hierarchy. Imagine if millions reclaimed their magnetic coherence. Wars would lose fuel because hatred could no longer propagate. Economies built on deceit would crumble because people would sense the falseness before it spread. Disease itself would diminish as human fields reintegrated with the planetary circuit. This is not utopia. It is the original state, the natural harmony we once called paradise. Those who control through fragmentation fear one thing above all: the human being who remembers what they are. Not a body with a spirit, but a field that builds a body. A luminous intelligence capable of generating coherence in chaos. The moment enough of us remember, their systems will dissolve, not through rebellion, but through resonance. The higher frequency does not fight the lower, it transforms it. You are not hearing this by chance. Magnetic attraction operates beyond coincidence. You found this message because your field already vibrates near its truth. The question is not whether you believe it, but whether you will act on what your own energy already recognizes. Begin where you are. Breathe consciously. Speak truthfully. Choose what nourishes both body and field. Withdraw your attention from what divides and fix it upon what unites. Each small correction accumulates into coherence, and coherence is power. The forgotten masters did not ascend into myth. They refined their magnetism until their bodies could no longer decay. They became the luminous ones of legend, the immortals mistaken for gods. Their message remains the same across millennia: purify your field, and the universe will reveal itself as your mirror. The age of secrets is ending. The science of the soul is returning. Those who learn to generate magnetic harmony within themselves will become the architects of the coming world. Not through conquest, but through vibration. Not through words, but through presence. For the ultimate truth of magnetism is love itself. Not the emotion, but the force that holds all creation together in perfect proportion. The force that remembers, even when we forget, that everything is one field, endlessly reorganizing itself into light. To understand how deep this knowledge goes, you must see magnetism not as a force among others, but as the very blueprint of consciousness. Every atom, every heartbeat, every planet turning in space follows its magnetic law. The initiates called it the Great Current. It flows through dimensions as effortlessly as water through a riverbed, sculpting reality according to resonance. What you attract, what you repel, what you manifest, all of it depends on the geometry of your personal field. When your field is fragmented, you live in reaction. Events seem random, people appear hostile, life feels heavy. When your field becomes coherent, synchronicities multiply. Time bends around intention. Chance transforms into pattern. The world begins to respond to your internal order. This is not fantasy. It is the oldest science on Earth, hidden beneath symbols so simple that they were dismissed as myth. The magnetic field of humanity as a whole behaves like a single organism. Every thought emitted contributes to the collective tone. Wars, pandemics, and revolutions are not isolated events. They are magnetic corrections of a species out of harmony. When enough individuals generate coherence, the collective field reorganizes. Peace is not a political negotiation. It is a magnetic state. That is why every civilization that understood magnetism built places of meditation at the heart of their cities. They were not temples of worship, but tuning chambers for the planetary field. In the ancient mystery schools, initiates were taught to perceive the human aura directly. They described it as an egg of light, translucent and pulsating with color. The most advanced could see distortions before illness appeared, restoring balance through concentrated thought alone. Modern science, blind to what it cannot weigh or dissect, has rediscovered fragments of this truth through the language of bioelectromagnetism. Instruments already confirm that the heart generates measurable magnetic waves extending meters beyond the body. Yet the true implications remain unspoken. We are transmitting and receiving far more than we know. You may ask, if this is so real, why has it been hidden? The answer is both simple and tragic: power. Those who know how to manipulate human magnetism can rule without visible chains. They can drain vitality through fear, redirect attention through distraction, and feed off the energy of collective confusion. The empire of noise was built for this purpose. Every constant stimulation, every artificial frequency, every screen flicker is designed to keep your field unstable. Stability is sovereignty, and sovereignty cannot be controlled. But control collapses in the presence of coherence. When your magnetic field aligns, fear loses its grip. Lies cannot penetrate. Manipulation becomes transparent. The initiate walking among the unawakened seems invisible not because they hide, but because their vibration is too ordered to register within the chaos. That is why the ancient texts describe the masters as luminous beings. They were not performing miracles, they were demonstrating physics of a higher order. Let us return to the beginning, to the breath. With each inhalation, you draw not only oxygen but information. The air carries the magnetic signatures of the sun, moon, and stars. The yogis called this prana. The alchemists called it the spiritus mundi. The breath is the first and final act of communion between your field and the cosmos. To breathe consciously is to feed the magnetic body with coherence. To breathe mechanically is to starve it. Close your eyes and feel the pulse in your chest. That rhythm is the song of your magnetic center. Align it with gratitude. Gratitude is the simplest form of alignment because it dissolves resistance. In a state of gratitude, your field expands. It becomes porous to higher frequencies, receptive to insight. Every master begins here. Every transformation unfolds from this silent harmony between heart and cosmos. There is a reason ancient initiations began in darkness. Darkness amplifies subtle perception. When all outer light fades, the inner magnetism becomes visible. The candidate face themselves, their own distortions projected upon the void. Only when their field stabilized under pressure did the first inner light appear. That light was not imagination. It was the self-luminous current of the soul revealing its true form. The mystics of every tradition spoke of the same threshold in different tongues. The Christians called it the Transfiguration. The Egyptians depicted it as the solar disk above the head. The Taoists called it the golden elixir. All referred to the moment when the magnetic body becomes fully self-sustaining, no longer dependent on external fields. The initiate at this stage can travel without moving, heal without touching, and communicate without speech. For them, death itself becomes an outdated illusion, for magnetism cannot perish, it only transforms. Our modern crisis is not technological but magnetic. Humanity's collective field has become dissonant. Artificial signals saturate the air, greed and fear pulse through financial networks, despair circulates through media. The result is a planetary aura in fragmentation. Yet within this chaos lies opportunity. The greater the imbalance, the more powerful the restoration when coherence returns. Nature is patient, and the law cannot be broken, only delayed. The first act of restoration begins with awareness. When you become aware of your own field, you begin to feel what strengthens and what weakens it. Certain people leave you drained, others recharge you instantly. Certain spaces feel nourishing, others suffocate. These are not metaphors. They are magnetic interactions. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is perception returning. Walk barefoot on living earth. The ground discharges stagnant charge and replenishes your field with planetary rhythm. Drink water exposed to sunlight. Its structure aligns with solar magnetism. Listen to silence more often than to noise. Silence is not absence. It is the resonance of order. Speak truth even when inconvenient, for truth harmonizes every frequency. The universe responds not to belief but to coherence. Imagine what would happen if entire communities practiced this consciously. Imagine cities built on magnetic principles again, architecture aligned with ley lines, materials chosen for resonance, music composed to tune the heart rather than distract the mind. Imagine education that teaches children how to maintain their energetic integrity before teaching arithmetic. Imagine medicine that restores coherence instead of fighting symptoms. This vision is not utopian. It is the memory of what once was and what must return. The alchemists hinted that the philosopher's stone could heal the world. They were right. The stone is not a mineral. It is the coherent magnetic core of an awakened human being. Wherever such a being walks, dissonance fades, corruption dissolves, and life reorganizes around order. The world has known very few of them, but their presence altered history in silence. They appear as saints, geniuses, visionaries, reformers, all radiating the same magnetic signature of integrity. You may wonder how one person could influence so much. But remember, resonance amplifies exponentially. When one field becomes coherent, it entrains nearby fields. The process continues outward like concentric ripples in still water. This is the real meaning of enlightenment, to become a source of order in a universe of flux. The light does not fight darkness, it renders it irrelevant. Modern physics has already begun to glimpse the edge of this mystery. Quantum entanglement, non-local coherence, biophotons emitted by living cells, all hint that consciousness and magnetism are two faces of the same phenomenon. What the ancients knew intuitively, science will one day measure precisely. But you do not need instruments to prove what you can feel. When your field aligns, life itself confirms it. Remember always, morality is magnetism. Honesty, compassion, and courage are not virtues for reward but calibrations for resonance. Every time you choose truth over convenience, your field gains power. Every time you choose love over fear, you rise in frequency. These increments accumulate until the veil of separation dissolves, and you experience existence as one seamless vibration. That is the real awakening, not an escape from the world, but the recognition that you are its magnetic architect. The hidden orders kept this secret because a coherent humanity cannot be ruled. But their time is ending. The Earth's field itself is changing, accelerating its frequency, inviting every soul to rise with it. You can resist and fragment further, or you can align and ascend magnetically into coherence. The choice, as always, is yours. In the end, there are no masters, no slaves, no chosen few, only fields learning to harmonize. The divine does not favor one over another. It simply resonates with those who remember its rhythm. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat is an invitation to rejoin that rhythm. To live magnetically is to live truthfully, and to live truthfully is to become luminous. Look around you. The world you see is your field made visible. If it appears chaotic, heal the chaos within. If it appears dark, refine your own light. The outer always mirrors the inner because magnetism connects everything. When you master your field, the universe bows in recognition, not as servant to master, but as harmony to its source. This is the forgotten science of energy manipulation. It was never forbidden, it was simply sacred. To the pure, it reveals itself instantly. To the fragmented, it hides in plain sight. Now, as the old systems tremble, the veil lifts once again. The breath of the cosmos moves through you. The magnetic current awaits your awareness. Step into coherence. Become what you have always been, a star remembering its own light.